Even though the Switch era is winding down, we still got quite a few games to look forward to in the year 2024. For example, another code, Recollection, is about to come out, and some other examples include the Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon remaster, the Mario vs. Donkey Kong remake, and the confirmed game that's generated the most hype for Switch releases in 2024, the Paper Mario Thousand Year Door remake. There's also the Splatoon 3 Side Order DLC to look forward to, among other smaller things. But this video is not about any of those, because today, I wanted to talk about the confirmed Switch game that I'm personally the most excited for in 2024, that being Princess Peach Showtime. Yes, I'm looking more forward to the new spin-off game that we don't know about the quality of than the remake of one of the most highly regarded Mario games amongst the fanbase. And in this video, I'm going to explain why. But before that, if you enjoy this video and want to see more Nintendo content like this, consider liking and subscribing. I'm attempting to post videos of me discussing Nintendo about every 2 weeks or so, and I'll definitely be talking about the Switch too, whenever we hear about it, so stay tuned for that. With that out of the way, let's get into the discussion. For a lot of this discussion, I'm going to be directly pitting Showtime and Thousand Year Door against each other, as I view TTYD as the big game that most people are excited about, so this will be a direct comparison between the two as to why I personally am more excited for Showtime than TTYD. If you're excited for Thousand Year Door, that's great, more power to you. Of course, this is just my opinion, and I'm not trying to tell you can't be excited for Thousand Year Door by making this video. I personally am looking forward to its release too. With that little disclaimer out of the way, let's start by talking about why I think is the biggest key difference between these two games. It's an entirely new game in comparison to a remake. Now, a game being a remake is inherently a bad thing. In fact, it's great to do this, especially with games like Thousand Year Door. As well, it's a critically acclaimed game amongst the Mario fandom. A lot of people within the fandom can't play that game because it was trapped on the GameCube, or Wii if you had the necessary stuff for it. A lot of Nintendo YouTubers have sung this game's praises over the years, but people either didn't play the game at the time, or weren't old enough to really grasp the concept of what a video game was, let alone play one, were gonna be hard pressed to find the game for a reasonable price, especially due to its increasing rarity. However, when it comes to hype and excitement, it's kinda hard for a remake to be as massive in terms of hype as an entirely new game for me. Especially considering that it's a new game starring Peach, a character who doesn't really often get time to stand out on her own, because she's often been relegated to the stereotypical damsel in distress role, leaving little room for her to stand out as her own independent character, at least when it came to the mainline games. Her being in a starring role in a game is an opportunity for them to expand on her as a character by taking what we already know about her and adding additional layers to it. One of the highlights of the Switch era for me has been seeing Nintendo taking more liberties when it comes to some of their characters, even if it's something as simple as allowing them to dress in different outfits more often. Going off of that, I also wanted to talk about how Mario spin-offs tend to flesh out these characters' personalities much more in comparison to the mainline games. In your typical Mario game, Peach will often be a kind, reserved, and quiet young woman that is used as the motivating plot device for the player to get to the end of the game. However, the spin-offs tend to show other sides to her character that often go more or less unseen. This includes Thousand Year Door, where there's an entire part of the story that is dedicated to Peach secretly getting messages through to Mario thanks to the help of this random computer that saw Peach showering and became very horny. There's also Super Paper Mario, where she shows she's not afraid to defend herself, as she flips on Mimi late in the game and insists on fighting her by herself after she insults her. And even after that fight, Peach puts herself in harm's way to help try and save Mimi, showing that these extra layers of her personality can very well coexist without completely overhauling her existing personality. Another character trait that I love seeing in the spin-offs is her being somewhat of a prankster. For example, in Mario Power Tennis, when Bowser asks for a kiss from her, she switches places with a Birdo after Bowser closes his eyes. Another example of this is Peach's AI in Mario Party 2 prioritizing plunder chests, with her character description saying she loves tricking people. In other words, she's a massive troll. I'm looking forward to seeing what new stuff we might see from her character in Showtime, while Thousand Year Door won't be offering anything that we haven't already seen in terms of that. Another thing that makes me excited for Showtime is that this is the first time in a long while that Peach has gone to star in her own game, with the last one being in 2006, with Super Princess Peach on the DS, a game that reversed the usual roles, with Mario and Luigi being kidnapped and Peach having to be the one to save the day. The game even had its own unique gimmick to help it stand out, where you solve puzzles by utilizing Peach's different emotions. Oh no. I haven't played the game or seen much of it, so I do remember seeing some people say this gimmick was actually sign of Peach's strength, as she was the only one in control of her emotions, which allowed her to not get kidnapped, and challenged them to push past obstacles and progress in the game. But whether that was the intent on the developer's part or not, I can't say for certain. So yeah, controversial gimmick aside, I'm sure they still made a quality game, right? So yeah, this game is kinda a second chance for Nintendo to make a game starring Peach that more people agree does the character justice. Thousand Year Door, again, is just a remake of a game that most people who played on the GameCube or Wii already loved. Even if it is a big deal in the Paper Mario fanbase, as this is the first sign they're seeing of the style of Paper Mario that the classic fans love since the original TTYD. Unless they try to make drastic changes to the battle system for some reason, which it doesn't really look like they're doing, I have little doubt that the fans will be pleased with the remake. Meanwhile, not only does Showtime have more question marks, but I feel like it's more important that this game is good to me, so that we have a quality game in which Peach gets to shine. Another thing that I think is worth mentioning is the stigma surrounding Peach's character amongst parts of the fanbase. A lot of the time, people see Peach's more quiet and closed nature, along with being dependent on Mario to rescue her in the mainline games, and often say that those traits are associated with someone having no personality, when those traits I mentioned should be just as valid as, say, Daisy's more outgoing and brash nature. In fact, I'd argue that that contrast from Peach being more composed is important to elevate Daisy as a character for a lot of people, honestly myself included for the longest time. However, I also feel as though it should work in a vice versa scenario, where Daisy's more contentious attitude, along with some of her voice clips, draw more people to Peach, who is less outspoken and more dignified. You know, when I started writing this video, I did not expect it to turn into me trying to analyze Peach's character as deeply as I did, but here we are. And honestly, I'm glad I did, because I feel like even through this video, my own thoughts on Peach as a character have further developed and made me come to have a greater respect for the character, which is why this game is so important to me. I truly think that Peach deserves a game that does her justice in representing her character, not just for her longtime fans, but maybe to clear up some misconceptions regarding her that I think some of her critics over the years have had. Thousand Year Door may be the long-awaited remake of one of the Mario franchise's greatest triumphs, but I, on the other hand, can't wait for Princess Peach Showtime to be in our hands. Oh yeah, one more part of my argument, Peach wearing these kinds of outfits and making these faces is both silly and adorable. I rest my case. Thanks for watching, I hope you have a great day.